Which running back will be the best value for the Dallas Cowboys during the 2024 NFL Draft? All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We'd also like to thank the fine folks at the Locked On Podcast Network for our new intro, which I know a lot of you guys have been asking for a while now. So there you go. Shout out to everybody. We also shout out to FanDuel. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Just visit fanduel.com/lockedon to get started. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. And joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can follow him on Twitter at McCoolBCB. As always, it's my favorite time of the year, talking running backs going into the NFL draft. And in all honesty, I really kind of like this running back class. So I'm excited to talk about three prospects who the Cowboys have at least some level of interest in that could end up being values. And Landon, let's start with Notre Dame running back Audric Estime.
Man, this guy is thickly built, power back, like really, truly the guy that I think I've been looking for as like the kind of true power back in this class, right? You see the body type, right? He's just under 6 feet. He weighed in at 220 pounds at the combine, but man, you watch him on film and there's just no way that he wasn't playing at like 235 plus, right? Like he was big, thickly built. He's shorter with thick legs and thick arms. From all rumors and what we've heard is that the guy has like less than 8% body fat. He's just a rock of muscle, essentially. And his game, shows that, right? He's physical, run behind the shoulder pads back, consistently plays with good pad level. For a bigger guy, he plays with really patient feet and vision. He picks his spot, he gets low, and then he runs through the hole. Like I mentioned, he's a power back. He's not pulling away from anyone unless he's putting them on the ground. He's got good enough burst, though. He can't maintain that burst, and I think that's the difference between having burst and long speed, right? But long speed is more the issue, not his acceleration, though. And I think that's worth pointing out because I think he does have very good acceleration, especially for a guy his size. He's excellent in power and gaps running schemes, follows his blocker, presses the hole to make the defender commit, and then uses his puller as a shield for defenders. Not as natural a fit in zone blocking schemes. He doesn't just have the kind of as much of a natural feel to see the cutback lane. I mean, he'll run it and like he understands what his reads are. But there are some guys who kind of, they see the shifts. They can see how it all is going to unfold. And then the moment the hole opens up, they hit that cutback lane and they're through it to the second level. He'll see it. He understands how to run those plays, but it's not like second nature like some of these great zone runners you see. He's a north-south runner who is extremely tough to stop once he gets momentum upfield. And that's that burst combined with that size and that power is really, really difficult to bring down, especially once he's started initially getting going, right? Not a dynamic receiver, simply due to his limited athleticism, but he will handle that kind of outlet dump off duties well because, again, the reasons I just mentioned. He does have decent hands. He does have a burst that he gets his hands on the ball, and he's very difficult to take down. So there is aspects of him that will be useful in the passing game if he can just get the ball in his hands. I will say this: he's not a great pass blocker. Not as much as I had hoped for a guy his size. I think there's technique issues there. But I think he can learn it. Obviously, he's physical and he has a willingness. That's not an issue. He just needs more patience and like a better punch. Where does he win? He's a tackle breaking downhill power runner. Unanswered questions. Does he have enough dynamism in his game to be a featured back? Like, that's really the issue, is that I would love him. I mean, I think he would fit as a committee back on a ton of different teams, right? You pair him with a more dynamic Tony Pollard type or whatever, a change of pace guy. That makes a lot of sense. The question I have is he good enough as a back in a totality, as a balanced player, to be a kind of exclusive player, to be a featured back in a role? That's where I think, we're going to see, that's where his value is kind of on an elevator, right? It's going to scale. If you see him as that, then maybe you take him, late day, round 3. If you don't see him as, you see him as part of a committee, maybe you take him, with kind of the rest of the lump of these guys in round 4.
So, so I actually didn't start watching him until after the combine, and I will say, like, usually these type of players I'm just out on. And if you're watching with us on YouTube right now, you see his athletic profile. Like, the jump scores are great, but a 4.71 40-yard dash, and more concerning to me, honestly, than the 40-yard dash is the 1.69 10-yard split lane. Like, that's just awful. However, we need to at least give him some credit because he goes to the pro day and we get verified times of 4.61 40-yard dash and a 1.58 10-yard split. Now, those still aren't great, but those are significantly better than a 4.71 and a 1.69. And I actually think that matches up to more what you see on tape, because there was quite a few long runs on his tape. And actually, if you look at like his breakaway rate for PFF, which we'll get to, in his home runs that he hit compared to like a Braylon Allen, he was hitting longer runs than a Braylon Allen, who was supposed to run in the 4.4s. So that's interesting to me. One stat that I actually saw this morning, he had over, just to be correct, I want to make sure I get this right. So he had over 78% of his runs came against heavy boxes last year. And then he averaged 6.5 yards per carry against heavy boxes. Like, he's used to running with no holes and no lanes and still being productive, which leads me to the advanced stuff. 97th percentile rushing grade, according to PFF, 89th percentile missed tackles forced per attempt, 92nd percentile yards after contact per attempt, 97th percentile zone grade, 84th percentile big run rate. I really like him. And this is the type of player I usually don't like very much. He reminds me of a 3-time Super Bowl champion, not Emmitt Smith, but LeGarrette Blount. I think he could have a very similar career to LeGarrette Blount, probably without the 3 Super Bowl wins, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you hope, right? The thing is that, and I think you brought up something that I actually forgot to mention in my notes, is that he isn't going to break a lot of 50-yarders necessarily, but he will have a ton of 10+ yards because he is bursty and physical. And I think, again, the reason he won't have 50-yard runs is because, his juice will run out at a certain point. But he's so hard to tackle initially, and if he gets going, he's getting through the second level. And it's going to be difficult for defensive backs to tackle him. So, I think I don't know that I would like to have this. I think his issues are going to come as he gets older, right? Like, I think if you got him right now, you've got a guy who's a big physical back who still has enough burst, right? That could still get some big plays. So I think, when you have him on his rookie contract, you're still going to have a nice balance of a power back who can give you some bigger runs because he's bursty, right? As those carries start to take a toll, I imagine he will fade into a, just a physical back. Right. A guy, maybe not a big play guy. Right?
Which I should mention, he's only 20 years old right now. Yeah. So you think about like he'll be 21 when the season starts. So you'll get him through age 21 through age 24. Those are the prime years of a running back anyways. And if you're drafting this player in the 3rd or 4th round, I'm not super worried about what's going to happen in year 5 and year 6. So I really like Estime. And the other thing that I kept coming back to when I was watching him is I do think the Cowboys have been missing this type of player, because he's actually different than Ezekiel Elliott. I think they've been missing this type of physicality for a while. And I do wonder if this is what the offense needs to kind of take them to the next level. When it's a 3rd and 2, can you convert that? Can you get that when it's bad weather out and it's raining? Can you move piles? And I think Estimé can do that.
Yeah, I think one thing that the Cowboys offense has been trying to do, and I think has been kind of sneakily targeting, is trying to be more physical, and like, say what you want about Tyron Smith and about that. Like he has, as his career has gone on, he's become more of a finesse player, right? More of a pass blocker. His run game wasn't as good. Now that they're trying to kind of turn this over a little bit, right? They've got Tyler Smith in his guard. It'll be interesting to see what they do at tackle, right? I wouldn't be shocked if they added more beef, just
Yes.
more strength to the up front of their offensive line, because they want to start leaning on folks a little bit more. And if that's the case, this guy also kind of is a turn towards that, right? A physical back who can wear down linebackers and secondary folks as he starts to go through the game.
Can I give you one more comp that Mike McCarthy might remember? A little Eddie Lacy to his game as well. And you never thought Eddie Lacy would be a good running back out of shotgun, but he did, and he had a lot of success, and most of Estimé's runs came out of shotgun as well. So I'm in on the player. I think anytime mid to late third round, sign me up. Let's talk about Tyrone Tracy, a completely different type of running back. Couldn't be more different than Audric Estime. We will get to him next. This episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. It's the winning formula for getting championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. It's Locked On NFL Mock Draft live on April 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern, streaming on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or in the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Find the ultimate 6-episode series on April 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern to hear who the local experts are breaking down or picking for every NFL franchise, with live reactions from local college football experts and even the fantasy football angle. I broke down almost every pick from a fantasy angle, so check that out. The Locked On NFL Mock Draft on April 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern, streaming live on Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. All right, Landon, let's talk about Tyrone Tracy, running back / wide receiver / kick returner. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, again, it kind of is almost a stereotypical wide receiver turned running back, right? He's sub 6 feet, sub 210 pounds. He's got long arms. He's got kind of smaller hands. He's a very sudden, agile runner, right? He uses jump cuts and start stops to destroy tackle angles and to get around defenders. He's got good power for a guy his size, I will say. And I will also say that beyond that, too, he has good power for a player that is new to the running back position, right? We see a lot of these guys, make the transition from wide receiver to running back. And, tackle breaking is something that kind of initially got them in that transition from wide receiver to running back, right? You usually see these guys, oh, he's a pretty good tackle breaker. I wonder if he could be a running back. And then when they get to running back, it's like, being a very good tackle breaker as a wide receiver isn't quite the same as a running back, right? But this guy's actually pretty decent at. He's got some power. He runs the ball like a kick returner more than a running back at this point. And that's really the issue I have with his game as it is right now, is that has vision to see and get through the hole. But again, he isn't anticipating its arrival or manipulating the second level of the defense with like his pace or anything like that. It's like, I'm waiting for the hole and then I'm getting through the hole, right? His vision definitely needs to continue to develop, because I think the issue is that, right now he's getting through the holes and it's working. I worry that those holes aren't going to stay open as long in the NFL, right? And if you're not anticipating it and not ready to get through it at the time that they open up, you're going to have some issues. And then that's the other part of this guy at times. you felt like there were times when he got caught behind the line of scrimmage and he was, trying to make moves, and he doesn't have the kind of power to like break away from defenders behind the line of
No,
scrimmage. So
no.
he needs to continue to develop his vision, because there could be a situation in the NFL where if he's not processing that information fast enough, he's not getting through the line of the scrimmage quick enough, and then he's suddenly incurring a bunch of tackles for loss, which you definitely don't want to do in the NFL. He's slippery. He's hard to bring down with the ball in his hands. He spins, he hops, he'll stay on his feet and just keep moving upfield. That's the thing that's really impressive, is you just constantly throw in moves, but he's still like continuing to make progression up the field, right? He jukes defenders while on the move. He creates subtle shifts that create uncertainty in the defender. And then Tracy uses that to create angles while the defender grasps for air. Former wide receiver at Iowa, but his route running out of the backfield, in my opinion, still needs some work. Like, it just doesn't feel like he's done that a lot.
Well,
right?
did you watch any of his Iowa tape?
I did. I watched a little bit of him as a wide receiver, and even as a wide receiver, they were running very kind of rudimentary routes there, right?
I liked his routes running as a receiver better than I liked his routes running as a
Well, that was actually my note, is that I think he gives you added value with his history as a gadget type wide receiver, but his route running, like, I would put him in the slot and have him run routes. Like, I don't know that he's giving you a ton of extra right now as a guy who's running Texas routes out of the backfield, or saying option routes from that spot. He doesn't go down with arm tackles. Like I said, he will break tackles as he's running through. I think early Tony Pollard is a good comparison, like early, as he was coming out of college kind of comparison, where it feels like he didn't get to his best position until later in his career, right? Like, to me, this guy looks like a running back, but he just doesn't have a ton of experience at it yet.
Well, this is somebody who played 6 years of college football. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And only 1 year of running back, right? Like, so good. He's got good suddenness. He can gather his feet and change his momentum in a moment's notice. Where does he win? Open field ball carrier. I mean, that's why you put him in there, is that Iowa, Purdue, both of these teams were desperately trying to find ways to get this guy the ball and have him run with the ball. However, they did it, whether throwing it short, handing it off. They're just trying to get the ball in his hands. Unanswered questions. How long before the positions start to become more natural for him? Because, that is really the biggest issue with him right now. He's dangerous with the ball in his hands. You feel like you can get him the ball a couple different ways, but as far as operating inside of a system, especially a running system, whether it's zone or gap or man or whatever, it's still kind of not second nature for him yet. He doesn't understand any of the nuance yet. There's still some development there. And this is not a great time to be trying to develop those skills, right? Like, I mean, It's like inconvenient for your NFL career. So it's going to be interesting to see how that develops.
We should also mention that he is going to be 25 as a rookie. So, like, he's definitely an older prospect.
Yeah.
But let's do some good stuff on him, because there is a lot to like. Here is his advanced stats via Pro Football Focus from the last 2 years, basically playing running back. 100th percentile rushing grade, number one in the country over the last 2 years. 100th percentile of missed tackles forced per attempt. 98th percentile yards after contact per attempt. 99th percentile gap grade. 99th percentile big run rate. One of the reasons he's getting a lot of attention now is because the advanced analytics love him. And I know some of this is a smaller sample size because he only had 113 carries last year, and then a handful in 2022. So you would expect those numbers to go down as he gets more touches, but he was incredibly efficient whenever he did get touches. He led the Big Ten in yards per carry last year. He is a really good returner. I like him a lot as a day 3 pick. My comp for him is Dwayne Harris, who the Cowboys used to use a little bit in the backfield. He runs a lot like Dwayne Harris in the sense of, like, man, he can make you miss. He's got some speed. He's a good athlete, but he's not going to move piles or anything like that. And he's not going to necessarily anticipate holes being open. Still, on day 3, if you want to take somebody who is this versatile and that can play, on special teams, can help you at receiver, can help you at running back, and can help you get some big plays, I understand.
I think this is one of these guys who, to me, you can draft and be excited about how you're going to incorporate him into this offense. But I also feel like if you draft him, I don't know that it satisfies your requirement for a running back. If that makes
Well,
sense. Like,
unless he's like the second part of a double up, right?
even then, like, I feel like he needs to be part. Like I feel like you need to have an established running back room that you are adding him to as a bonus, at least for year one, right? Because I think moving forward, I think look, he can get carries and all that, and I think, but I just worry if he's your, like, if you're splitting duties with this guy, right, and your other running back gets hurt, and he's your only running back in a game.
Oh, yeah, you can't. No,
You can't really
he has
do
a
that,
role.
right?
He is a complementary change of pace running back. He is not the guy that, oh no, Jonathan Brooks has gone down for 4 games. It's now Tracy starting. Like, that's just not going to be him.
Yeah, especially if if your team doesn't have like a gadget guy. Like, this guy could be that and your running back 3 or part of committee and your kick returner, that kind of glue. I mean, really, you said it, Dwayne Harris, right? Like that guy, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I like him a lot, and I think I want him on my football team. And I think he actually, for the Cowboys, it makes a lot of sense, especially with combined with what they've got. Maybe you have these guys plus a vet, right? And Tyrone Tracy. But I just, was cautioning, like, I think he's a juice guy, but his, kind of lack of experience is going to make his deployment, I think, especially in year one, a little bit difficult unless you've got a running back room already established.
All right, let's talk about one of the best stories in the entire draft, and that's Ray Davis. Not only is his story great, he's also a really, really good player too. We will discuss him next. This episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I've been told that I'm a competitive person before. I get really into board games. I get really into anything. I really do. And my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go, and I'm sure you've heard of it before. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not only just one board, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with my friends. I've been playing with my sister and her boyfriend over the last couple of days. It's absolutely, it's crazy. I can charge them rent on my iconic properties just like regular Monopoly, but you can also rob their vaults of riches for myself. And the leaderboard show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Listen, we've got so much going on in the sports world right now. We've got the NBA playoffs. The play-in game starts on Tuesday. We've got the NHL playoffs. We got baseball in full swing. And FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all in an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and make your first bet an automatic win with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We are discussing running back options for the Dallas Cowboys, probably after round 2 of the draft, rounds 3, 4, 5. Let's go to Ray Davis, who I love watching this year at Kentucky. So productive. What did you see from the tape?
Yeah, I was a big fan as well. And I kind of caught my eye, earlier in the process, and I started watching him and then kind of put him aside. So it was nice to kind of get back to him. Undersized guy. Like the first thing I kind of noticed, just kind of going through his numbers, is just he's very short, with average height, weight. I mean, not average height, but she's short with average weight, right? Small hands, shorter arms. But despite that, right, this guy is a power back. He runs with power in a very compact frame. He's difficult to tackle because he packs 211 pounds into a very small frame. It's like when he has that burst, it's like he's like a bullet, right? He's able to put his foot down and explode upfield. he's short and gets low behind pads and traffic. And will burst through arm tackles. He's really difficult to kind of bring down. And if you're watching on YouTube right now, you're seeing a picture of him. I mean, look how thick his lower body is, right? Like there's an offensive lineman right behind him, and he's got similarly sized thighs, right? And he just he has sort of an upright running style, but he is also, while being upright runner, very good about knowing when it's time to lower his pads, to take on contact. And he does so without kind of slowing down to brace for contact, right? He does it kind of all in a smooth motion. And even when he gets hit in his kind of upright mode, it just seems like a lot of defenders, especially arm tacklers, kind of just bounce off of him, right? He's just not losing momentum when he's getting when he's taking like blows to like left and right on his side. He's just able to kind of keep up and continue to move forward. Low center of gravity. Like I said, even with his upright running style, this gives him superior contact balance. He's excellent in tight quarters, right? His balance and vision is combined with his diminutive height, can help him get lost in the trash until he needs to burst through the hole, right? And surprise his defenders. He does a good job of using his pace to set up his blocks, will hesitate to throw off a pursuit and then burst through the hole to make the defender miss after they've made an adjustment. He's got very clean hands as a receiver. You see that very clearly right away. Like he snatches the ball with overhand technique and like doesn't fight the ball at all and does a good job of kind of transitioning to receiver. I even saw him, I think it was versus Louisville, on a wheel route, catching the ball over his shoulder just very cleanly for a touchdown. You didn't see him like running a bunch of different types of routes.
No.
So I don't really know how he is as a route runner necessarily. He did run a nice wheel and he kind of did some outlet stuff, but I do think that this is going to be a guy that will be a very good screen runner, right? Because he catches the ball very cleanly, doesn't fight it at all, transitions to a receiver very quickly. And since he has that kind of low center of gravity and good burst, he's able to quickly get through the kind of blocking, and then he's in open field, and that can be really dangerous. Blocking is an issue for him. Pass blocking.
Yeah, he's just not very big.
Well, I don't even think that that's the issue. I think the issue is that he puts his head down and is like reaching, and like his technique is just bad, right? Like I think he has enough power in his lower body to be useful, especially as a cut blocker. But he's just not good at it. And he's kind of throwing himself as opposed to lining a guy up and punching up into him to kind of redistribute his weight upwards, right? He's just kind of lunging with his head down, which is going to get him hurt and or get his quarterback hurt, to say the least. I mentioned he didn't run a ton of different routes, but he shows promise as a route runner because he has kind of loose hips, right? Where does he win? I think balance and vision combined with explosion is going to get you far in the NFL, right? He's able to create big plays while running inside because of this. The guy that I saw, and I think I got this from Matt Waldman, if I'm not mistaken, but I couldn't stop seeing it, was I see a lot of Ray Rice.
That's my comp for him as well.
Yeah, I mean, Rice came out a lot faster. I think, I went back and looked at the numbers just to kind of see, but when you see this guy, I don't see college Ray Rice. I think Rice went to Rutgers, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember. I don't see college Ray Rice. I see Baltimore Ravens Ray Rice running, right? And that's the kind of running style he has, because he's a compact, smaller power back, right? Who's going to punish you for tackling him. My unanswered question is there enough in the pass game to make him a feature back? I'll take him as part of a committee all day, right? The question is, he's had a lot of touches on his body, in the SEC, and can he be useful enough in the pass game to be featured back by himself, or will he always need to be part of the committee?
Yeah, so I like the Ray Rice comp. To me, that's like the really high end comp for Ray Davis. I think like the most likely is like Khalil Herbert, who is a rotational back with the Bears right now, and I think on the lower end, maybe he's somebody like Tashard Choice to pull back from a former
Choice
Cowboy
is another
guy.
one, man. I thought of Choice as well.
I really like, now the touches are a concern. He has over 850 touches. He's going to be 25 during his rookie season. So he's a one contract player, but I do think in the right committee, he's going to be very valuable. And I think he's going to go probably somewhere in the 4th, 5th, 6th round. And if you draft, let's say you drafted Jonathan Brooks and then you turn around in the 5th and 6th round and you grab this guy, I feel really good about your backfield. Or if you grab like a Jalen Wright, maybe who has a little bit more speed, then you want somebody that can run between the tackles. I like him quite a bit. Really quickly, some advanced stats via PFF. Nothing amazing that jumps off the chart, but everything is very good. 88th percentile rushing grade, 75th percentile missed tackles forced per attempt, 78th percentile yards after contact per attempt, 88th percentile gap grade, 78th percentile receiving grade. Just a really strong do-it-all running back.
I think he's going to come in and be an immediate contributor. He's run for over 2,000 yards in the SEC in the last 2 years, averaging over 4.8 yards a carry. I'm pretty sure, just doing simple math there. Like, he's just a very solid player. He's going to come in and be a very useful first contract running back.
Yep.
You can worry about what happens with him after that, but if you draft him, he is going to be one of these guys out of all this class, I would imagine, that is going to be the likeliest to come in and immediately contribute, because he has the experience, the skill set, all that immediately translates to the NFL. The question is, where's his ceiling and where's his longevity for this player?
All right, that is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen of the day. Later on this week, we're going to answer your Twitter questions. We've got another mock draft simulator coming on Friday. We're going to look at a couple offensive linemen that we know that the Cowboys are interested in, and a linebacker who I have some very mixed feelings on from Kentucky. So make sure you guys check that one out as well. Go follow the show wherever you get your podcast. We are free and available on all platforms. Follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosher, and we will see you right back here tomorrow.